Hi, it's Scott here from MoneyNerd, and for those that don't know, we use insider knowledge to help people beat debt collectors and become debt-free. And in this quick video, I'm going to show you how to deal with Oriel Collections. These are debt collectors you probably received a letter from. And if Oriel are sending you letters, giving you a phone call, or even knocking at your door, then I sympathise for you. When I had debt collectors chasing me back in 2010, it caused me a lot of stress and anxiety, and to be honest, plenty of sleepless nights. But since then, I've worked in the credit card industry for over 10 years. I'm happy to say I've been able to use my insider knowledge to help become debt free and to help thousands of other people out of debt. So today, I'd like to share that knowledge by answering 5 frequently asked questions, such as are Oriel collections even legitimate? How to reduce your repayment amounts? How to stop Oriel Collections from contacting you, what happens if you ignore them, and what they're not allowed to do when they're collecting your debt. At the end of this video, I have a bonus tip on how to write off some of your debt, so stick around to the end. Okay, question number 1. Are Oriel Collections even a legitimate company? Are they a legitimate debt collector? Well, if you've received a letter in the post, this is probably your first question. If you don't recognise the company name, it might be that they've purchased your debt, or they're a debt collector collecting on behalf of another company. I can confirm that Oriel Collections is a UK registered company, and whilst there are a bunch of scams out there when it comes to debt collectors, I'm afraid this is unlikely to be a scam. However, you should never pay unless you're certain that the debt is yours. You're well within your rights to ask Oriel Collections to provide proof that the debt is yours, and I have a free letter template that you can use to confirm that the debt is yours and to confirm how much you owe. It's totally free, and I'll link that in the description. Okay, question number 2. What happens if you ignore Oriel Collections? Well, if you ignore debt collectors, your problem could escalate and become very serious. Oriel Collections does have the right to take court action against you, and if you were to ignore court letters, you could end up with a county court judgment, or what you might recognise as a CCJ. This can have a major impact on your credit score and your chances of borrowing money in the future. If you do get a CCJ and you still don't pay, this could ultimately result in bailiffs coming to your home to take your valuable items or even your car. There's a big difference between having a debt collector like Oriel Collections chasing you and having bailiffs come to your home. So I can't urge you enough that now's the time to take action on your debts while there's still options available to you. So please don't ignore Oriel Collections, and we'll get to what you should do later in this video. Okay, question number 3 is what are the rules that Oriel Collections have to follow? Well, despite being legally appointed to collect your debt or outright owning your debt, there's several things that Oriel Collections can't do when it comes to collecting debts. Knowing what Oriel Collections can and can't do will make you feel a lot more comfortable and confident when dealing with them. So here's the things they're legally not allowed to do. They're not allowed to visit your place of work without you giving them specific permission to do so. Before this rule was put in place, by the way, some debt collectors would show up while you're working and try and make things awkward for you as a way of pressuring you into paying. And on a similar note, they're not allowed to speak to neighbours or friends or family about your debt. Again, this is to stop them trying to embarrass you or shame you into paying your debt. Oriel Collections can't contact you or visit your home at unreasonable times of the day. For phone calls, most people would agree that calls before 8 AM are too early and calls after 9 PM are too late. But your circumstances might be different, for example, if you work night shifts. And if you can't take calls during certain times, then tell them. They should keep a record of this and avoid calling you during these times. And by the way, for home visits, the regulations say that debt collectors need to clearly explain the purpose and the intended outcome of the proposed visit, and they need to give you adequate notice of the date and tell you the likely time of the visit. And you're well within your rights to complain if they keep calling you or visiting your home at times that you've told them to avoid. Next, it's also good to know that they're not allowed to act in a threatening or intimidating way. Also, they should never pressurise you into paying larger instalments than you can afford or hitting payment deadlines that are impossible. The regulations also say that they're not allowed to pressure you into selling your home or to take out more credit to pay your debts. Also, it's good to know that debt collectors can't pretend to be bailiffs or enforcement agents. Unlike bailiffs, debt collectors can't force their way into your house, and they can't refuse to leave if you ask them to. And they're certainly not allowed to take any of your belongings or clamp your car. Okay, question number 4. How long can you be chased for debt? Well, under the Limitation Act of 1980, a creditor has 6 years to chase most unsecured unpaid debts, or 12 years for some mortgage debts. This limitation period starts from the time that you last made a payment or when you last acknowledged the debt. Ultimately, debt collectors can't enforce their debts through the courts after 6 years, but if you've already been taken to court and have a CCJ registered against you, then unfortunately there's no end date for how long you can be chased. Okay, question number 5, and then I have that bonus tip on how to write off some of your debt. So the question is, how do I pay less and come to an agreement with Oriel Collections? Well, there's a number of ways you might be able to reduce the amount you pay. If Oriel Collections are adding interest and charges to your debt, then you could ask them to freeze them to help you get back on track quicker and clear your debts quicker. Debt collectors are more likely to stop or reduce interest and charges if you can prove that you're in financial difficulties. I'd suggest you put together a budget showing your income and essential living costs so you can clearly demonstrate if you are in financial difficulties. You can also use that same budget to negotiate reduced payments. Again, for this you'll need to show why you can't afford higher repayments, so use that budget to write down your income and essential living costs so you can clearly demonstrate what you can afford. Sometimes debt collectors will only agree to reduce payments for a set period of time, and at the end of this period of time they'll want an update on your situation. Other times they'll agree to much longer repayment periods. This will totally depend on the nature of your debt and your individual circumstances. If you have the cash, you could make a full and final settlement offer. This is where you ask them if they'll accept a lump sum instead of the full balance that you owe. And in return for that lump sum, some debt collectors will agree to write off the remainder of the debt. And as promised, here's my bonus tip on how you might be able to write off some of your debt. And it's not just with Oriel Collections, by the way. If you have debts with other people, there's lots of ways you can significantly reduce your repayments and even write off some of your debt. During my career in the credit card industry, I discovered that there are 7 relatively unheard of debt solutions that are available in the UK, and the industry doesn't really advertise many of these, as most of them are either free or low cost. Now, unfortunately, these solutions are not available to everybody. You do need to be in specific circumstances, but there's probably at least one of these 7 solutions that you do qualify for. You could either be paying less than you do already, or maybe even write off some of your debt. To make it simple for you, I've created a free eligibility checker, which I'll show you now. It's just 5 simple questions and it takes less than 30 seconds to do. They're questions like, what is the total amount of your debt? How many people do you owe money to? What country do you live in? What's your current living situation? Really simple questions like that. And at the end of the calculator, I'll be able to tell you if you're eligible to reduce your repayments and even write off some of your debt. So click the link in the description, complete the calculator, and find out if you're eligible to reduce your repayments and write off some of your debt.